maybe the best is to compare it with the ASCII table. So let's quickly get an ASCII table up here. So there's my ASCII table, and you can clearly see as we are searching for the dot, there's my dot at position number 46. So any character being bigger equal that 46, then running up to the character 8, moving on to the next column, up to character 9, equal to character 9. These are accepted. All the others then will be excluded. So if that all is true, we can actually take that character and make it part of our new string. So that string will build up for 200 Rand. It will skip the R, it will skip the space, then it will start collecting the 2, the 0, 0, the dot, 0, 0, and all that will be then translated string to float into my answer. And the answer, of course, is my return value being a real. So that function then returns my perfect 200 Rand, which I can use. Right, looking at the verification. As all the data was filled in, we are getting that verify data button displayed, and we can make use of it, and we should make use of it, since it really needs to be double-checked, our data. Nothing is worse than having a database with faulty data inside. So 4 items should be actually checked here. The first one is the ID number, whether it has got 13 characters, not less than, not more. Then the date of birth should be a legal date of birth, especially checking February. Then the complete ID number has to be unique inside the applicants. We can't have doubling here, or a person may be applied a second time. And the last check should be then the contribution being 10 Rand up to 200 Rand to stay in those limits. So the first part that is checked here is then the length for the ID number, which is simple and easy. The next one could deliver some headache to us, since those days we are going over the border line of 1900, so we have to double check a person who's then born in the year 2000 onwards. Now luckily we can expect, and there's a bit of a note here, we can expect a 100-year and older person will not be part of our system. So there shouldn't be any confusion between a person born in 1913 and a person born in 2013. So we're just taking out the first 6 characters from the ID number, adding a 20 in front, or then adding a 19 in front, depending how that ID number is starting off. Having that in place, we have to insert a / and a / to make it a real good looking date in the form of a string. So here's a typical date written out. That's what we try to get. The moment we have got this perfect date, we can try switching it over to a true date. But of course that is only possible if that mask or that specific format is followed from the operating system. So maybe it's a good idea to quickly show you where to tune it in case your computer is tuned in, for example, to American standards or to English standards. You should have tuned in to South African date format. So let's move over. You won't see it here, but we are going to the Start button, Control Panel, and being on the Control Panel, activating that one, we should go to something called Language and Region Settings. So let's click on that one. Let's then see what do we have here. Change date, time, and number format. That's precisely the one we're looking at. And right here, if you didn't tune in your computer from day number 1, it is standing on English United States. And you can easily see here, your short date format is month, day, and then 4 digits for year. If you keep that, your date will be, of course, misinterpreted. So you have to switch it back to please and keep it that way, since we're living here. Keep it to English South African, and it will deliver perfectly Rand what you need, the date as you like it. The date is like 4 digits for years, 2 for month, 2 for day. And you just apply here and you say, okay, I will just go for cancel for my part. But that is how you tune in the operating system's format for date. Now, having that all in place, we can go the big step, and inside then an exception handling block, we try to switch it over from a string to be a date. Of course, that good date then is of type tDate. Just double checking here, good date of tDate. And the moment it can be switched over, it will be accepted here, and our data verified becomes true. If that's not possible, of course, one of those exceptions, special exception, will kick in, eConvert error, because the conversion wasn't possible, and will come forward with that type of error message. Just beware, if you start running that application and you get that type of error inside the compiler, it could have happened that another exception from the operating system kicks in first. So to really truly test your exceptions, you should compile your application and then run your exe from the outside. So just to tell you precisely, you should run your application from right here. Okay, otherwise the wrong exception kicks in. The second thing we never focused on is in case the ID number is really not equal to 13, of course it runs down, and I love to have my begin and ends really in line. So there's the first one finished, and here is my else belonging to the second one, and there we go. So in case it's not 13, it will just come up with ID number incomplete. Having all this in place, and it will abort, and you just have to redo it again. If my data verified is then positive and true, we're moving on to the next step, which will then test whether we have got a unique ID inserted here or not. Now, there are different ways of doing that one. I took a straightforward and easy one here. Since we're adding another person to the whole list, we should have at least a prior record sitting there waiting for us. So I'm just taking my pointer, and I'm referring here to my data module. From the data module, I can refer to my table, which we had a look at, and I'm going to a previous type of record. By moving my pointer, of course, my data will be saved on the one hand side, and on the other hand side, it will be double checked against my primary key. And the primary key, of course, only accepts like unique values. So if that's not possible, it will kick in with eDatabase error, and it will show me a nasty error coming up like ID not unique. So that's an easy and simple way of doing it. If it succeeds on that one, I'm just moving back again to really show the very same record. Having all that in place, we could move on to the next part. Checking for the data, and especially the rand money value entered for the application. We should check whether it's bigger equal 10, and then same time smaller equal to 100. Now you can easily see here we're making use of the self-defined method, current to float. Let me just scroll back here. So it is accepting that string and then working out my real value based on that string, chopping it down and just taking off whether it's euro at the back or rand in the front or whatever, but it's chopping it down to a real money value only consisting of numbers. And if that is all in place and we are well inside that region, bigger than 10, smaller than 200, we say paid fine. Otherwise, error message here. If my paid is fine, if my data is verified, we're happy with all these items, and we just do some additional tune-ins here, updating the status bar and updating the progress bar, which we have got right on top here. So we added just one of these applicants and so on. Maybe another interesting point here is our speed buttons. You saw those speed buttons here. The moment we were actually scrolling up and coming to the first record, it started blending out. Of course, it's getting like disabled, and that should be the case. Now, how to achieve that is a bit of a tricky story, at least if you do it the first time. So speed button up click, that means it's our up button going to the previous record. And we just go to the prior inside that specific data set. Same time, we keep the speed button downwards true. That means it stays enabled, because if we moved one up, we can of course move one down again if we wanted to. And here maybe is a new type of method brought to you, BOF, for beginning of file. That means if the beginning of file becomes true here and we say not true, of course we're getting false. So the up pointing button becomes disabled. Right, the very same then accounts for the down button with EOF for end of file. Okay, fabulous. That brings us now to the end of the tab sheet 1. So let's move on to the tab sheet 2 in a moment.